Hello, I'm Janet Spriggs, President of Forsyth Technical Community College. Today is an exciting day for all of us at Forsyth Tech as we share our college's new brand with all of you. Over the past several months, we used an inclusive process to collect data from current students, past students, prospective students, parents of students, business partners, community members, and of course, our Forsyth Tech trustees, staff, and faculty. We received more than 1,600 responses to our market study, and we used that data along with extensive information from qualitative interviews to build a clear concept of who and what Forsyth Tech is and who we strive to become. We heard that Forsyth Tech is an institution of equity. We heard that Forsyth Tech is a college that is student-centered and not just student-interested. And we heard that Forsyth Tech creates both personal and community prosperity by providing access for everyone to high-quality, affordable, relevant higher education. Those are bold and brave statements, and I assure you we are ready to make bold and brave statements for our communities and our students. I can tell you that what we heard led us to a belief. We believe Forsyth Technical Community College is a place of promise. Now, I can tell you that, but I would rather have our students tell you in their own words.
Forsyth Tech accepts, supports, and cares about me. It's a place where my professors and instructors think about me as a person, my needs, my potential, my academic success, and my future opportunities.
Here at Forsyth Tech, I feel welcomed and included. There's a sense of belonging among the faculty, the staff, and the students. It's inclusive and open, and there's equity, fairness, and justice.
Here at Forsyth Tech, there are people like me and different from me. Nevertheless, we lean on each other and learn from each other.
There's a place here for everyone. We are part of a greater community.
Here's a place where I see the possibilities for my future. The opportunities to earn a degree and make a better living.
Forsyth Tech has truly changed my life. When I didn't see hope, Forsyth Tech was there.
People care that if I really want to achieve a dream, in this place there are instructors and staff members who will help me along the way. They will help me find a path to hands-on real-world experiences to better help my family.
A place where I didn't think I could possibly afford college. I found scholarships and financial aid. People who were there to talk to me, who were supportive and wanted to help me overcome barriers.
Forsyth Technical Community College is a place of... Hello, I'm Janet Spriggs, President of Forsyth Technical Community College. Today is an exciting day for all of us at Forsyth Tech as we share our college's new brand with all of you. Over the past several months, we used an inclusive process to collect data.
I'm studying biology right now, and I plan to transfer to medical school.
I've always liked design, and I've been doing graphic design for about 4 years now.
I want to pursue social work, to come back to my community and help the youth.
I'm studying accounting. My goal is to land a job with one of the big firms.
3 years ago, I decided it was time to get my college degree.
PTK has prepared me for all the ins and outs of college. Honestly, like everything else in my life, I just kind of fell headfirst into it. It was insane to meet so many like-minded people. It was like this whole little family that had programs and scholarships and opportunities that help you.
When I moved from Venezuela to the United States, I was lost. I was confused about a lot of things. I knew about Phi Theta Kappa. I have been able to help children and to help our community thanks to volunteering in Phi Theta Kappa.
Growing up in my community, I felt like I did not have so much support. I was missing out so much of the opportunities. Coming to PTK, it was something different. It's like, the mentors were there for me.
Phi Theta Kappa has opened many doors for me. It enabled me to go to a campus I get to be interacting and get to stay right here in state. Without the scholarship opportunities, I would have had to go online.
I actually put it on my resume and it helped me get into the honors program where I'm going to be attending in the fall. I'm ready to take on the world's challenges because of PTK.
I don't think my college experience would have been as amazing as it really has been without PTK or my advisor.
Phi Theta Kappa has prepared me to go out there and impact the next generation.
I have had so many opportunities that I know in my country I would have never ever dreamed of having.
Hello, fellow Forsyth Tech students. I'm Lauren Uy, and I'm the Early College Forsyth's representative for student government. I hope your classes have been treating you well and that your workload has been light. I'm just coming on here to remind you all of the importance of our voting privilege. As the 2020 election is quickly approaching, I hope you all consider exercising your right to vote. Our vote is our voice, and we must remember that some of us aren't granted this right. It's important for us to use our vote to stand up for issues that impact our community and our families. To be eligible to vote, you must be a U.S. citizen, a resident of North Carolina, and at least 18 years old by the date of the next general election. You can either register to vote in North Carolina at the DMV, in person at your local County Board of Elections office, or on the County Board of Elections website. North Carolina has also permitted the use of online voter registration tools, which simplifies the process by submitting the form itself rather than you mailing it in. All you need to register with is a North Carolina ID or driver's license. And as a reminder, here are some of the available voting options: absentee by mail, in person during the early voting period, or in person on election day. If you want to vote absentee by mail, don't forget to submit your absentee ballot request to the Board of Elections office ahead of time. And if you participate in in-person voting, the County Board of Elections have constructed one-stop voting sites and will regularly sanitize voting equipment to ensure your safety. The North Carolina State Board of Elections will continue to update their guidelines in response to rapidly changing situations. But whichever option that is available to you, I do hope that you will all consider using your right to vote and advocate for issues that are important to you.
Good morning, my name is Paulina Solis Page. I'm an international student from Honduras. I am North Carolina Regional Vice President of Phi Theta Kappa, as well as Vice President of Leadership for the Alpha Mu Rho Chapter and Student Ambassador. I am grateful to participate in this event as an international student. Although I'm not allowed to vote in this country, having the right to do so should not be taken for granted. In my country, Honduras, the issue of transparency has long plagued the political scene. There are issues with poverty, economics, education, and healthcare. The main purpose for me coming to the States to earn my degree was to be in a position where I could be part of the solution. That's why my degree track is global affairs. Fortunately for American citizens, the political system is transparent and you do have the ability to advocate for change through your vote. Your voice matters, so please let it be heard. Thank you.
Good morning, students and faculty. My name is Lauren Uy, and I'm the Vice President of Forsyth Tech Student Government Association. I just wanted to thank you all for taking the time out of your day to view our virtual discussions panel. We created this event to commemorate Constitution Day and foster awareness for the importance of voting, the U.S. Constitution, and also the navigation of our political process. We hope that all of our viewers have their questions answered and take valuable knowledge out of this event. This event is important to high school students like me. It's because we don't have direct representation in our government until we're eligible to vote. But there's still avenues for high school students to get involved in the political process and advocate for ourselves. If you're at least 16 years of age, you can sign up at your local county boards of elections office to work as a poll worker. Especially now, many counties need poll workers. Another way to advocate for yourself is to contact your local and state representatives and see where they stand on issues that affect you and your community. And lastly, there is a plethora of local and national nonpartisan voter registration groups that are in need of outreach volunteers. Ultimately, it is important to consider that your involvement in the political process affects the future of this country. Thank you again for having me on here, and I do hope that you enjoy this event.
My name is Curtis Walker, and I am the president of the Student Government Association at Forsyth Technical Community College. Good morning to my fellow students, faculties, and administration members, to the staffs of political figures, college presidents, and more. On behalf of the Student Government Association of Forsyth Technical Community College and our student body, the faculty, administration, board of trustees, and our president, Dr. Janet Spriggs, I welcome you to the first Constitution Day virtual discussion panel. It is an honor to share in the efforts of many people who made this moment possible. Today is the culmination of the energies of so many, particularly my fellow SGA members Alexis Lum, Lauren Wu, Jeremy Brown, Keenan Lofton-Bell, Seth King, Christian Duggins, Annalena Tavares, and Paulina Solis-Page. I also acknowledge the full commitment of the staff here at Forsyth Tech, like Miss Judy St. Sing, Miss Lauren Christmas, Miss Paula Dibley, Miss Jenny Terry, Miss Mason Sawyer, Mr. Kevin McCann, Mr. Paul Molsky, and so many others, but of special note, our advisor, Miss Beverly Lewis. Forsyth Tech is truly a place of promise. We believe that we are one student body in support of each other. It is that belief which allows us to dare to dream that our institutions can truly be places of equity and catalysts for economic mobility. The discussion you are about to take part in is about the word process. The political process which affects each and every one of us, from the local taxes to the state tax on your purchase in Walmart to property tax or school tax, we are impacted by legislation and the execution of laws and policies. The men and women that you're about to hear from are your agents and duly elected or about to be elected extensions of your voice. Use your voice because it matters. Your voice matters because it changes the world. When you speak, people do listen. You are one of the fastest growing voter blocks in history. In the 2018 midterms, 40.3% of 10 million students turned out to vote. You are about to change the world. So as you listen and question and ponder what you are about to hear, know that at some point in a not too distant future, the world will look at you. Why? Because it truly is a process. You are the future, and make it as bright as your dreams. Enjoy this discussion, and thank you.
Good morning. My name is Mason Sawyer, and I'm the Vice President for Student Success Services here at Forsyth Tech. I would like to take just a few moments to extend a sincere welcome to each of you and thank you for attending our Constitution Day virtual discussion panel. Our SGA President, Mr. Curtis Walker, and his staff, along with our Office of Student Life and Engagement, have put together an amazing event that I know will be one of our best Constitution Days ever. We have colleges from all across our great state in attendance, and even members of Waubonsee Community College and Sugar Grove, Illinois in attendance. Welcome to our community college colleagues and friends. I would also like to welcome our esteemed guests and panelists who have taken time out of their busy schedules to come and provide a better understanding of the political process, the Constitution, and the importance of voting. I'm certain we will all learn many valuable and timely insights that will empower us in this critical time in our nation. Again, on behalf of Forsyth Tech faculty, staff, and administration, I say welcome and enjoy today's event.
Hello, I'm Janet Spriggs, President of Forsyth Technical Community College. Today is an exciting day for all of us at Forsyth Tech as we share our college's new brand with all of you. Over the past several months, we used an inclusive process to collect data from current students, past students, prospective students, parents of students, business partners, community members, and of course, our Forsyth Tech trustees, staff, and faculty. We received more than 1,600 responses to our market study, and we used that data along with extensive information from qualitative interviews to build a clear concept of who and what Forsyth Tech is and who we strive to become. We heard that Forsyth Tech is an institution of equity. We heard that Forsyth Tech is a college that is student-centered and not just student-interested. And we heard that Forsyth Tech creates both personal and community prosperity by providing access for everyone to high-quality, affordable, relevant higher education. Those are bold and brave statements, and I assure you we are ready to make bold and brave statements for our communities and our students. I can tell you that what we heard led us to a belief. We believe Forsyth Technical Community College is a place of promise. Now, I can tell you that, but I would rather have our students tell you in their own words.
Forsyth Tech accepts, supports, and cares about me. It's a place where my professors and instructors think about me as a person, my needs, my potential, my academic success, and my future opportunities.
Here at Forsyth Tech, I feel welcome and included. There's a sense of belonging among the faculty, the staff, and the students. It's inclusive and open, and there's equity, fairness, and justice.
Here at Forsyth Tech, there are people like me and different from me. Nevertheless, we lean on each other and learn from each other.
There's a place here for everyone. We are part of a greater community.
Here's a place where I see the possibilities for my future. The opportunities to earn a degree and make a better living.
Forsyth Tech has truly changed my life. When I didn't see hope, Forsyth Tech was there.
People care that if I really want to achieve a dream, in this place there are instructors and staff members who will help me along the way. They will help me find a path to hands-on real-world experiences to better help my family.
A place where I didn't think I could possibly afford college. I found scholarships and financial aid. People who were there to talk to me, who were supportive and wanted to help me overcome barriers.
Forsyth Technical Community College is a place of promise. That statement is part of our brand. It represents who and what we are, but it's more than just a tagline. For us, it's our promise to Forsyth and Stokes counties and to the students, businesses, and communities we serve. At Forsyth Tech, we make these promises. We promise to value, accept, and support all students. We promise to know each student and help them achieve their goals. We promise to help students find jobs and build careers. We promise to be a lifelong learning resource for our students. We promise to be a versatile partner for local businesses, providing needed services and ready-to-work employees. We promise to lead our communities in advancing social mobility and promoting social justice. And we promise to contribute to the cultural vibrancy and economic prosperity in our communities. Of course, a promise is not really worth something unless you keep it. So we pledge to keep them all. This is our commitment. This is our guarantee. This is Forsyth Tech, a place of promise.
I'm studying biology right now, and I plan to transfer to medical school.
I've always liked design, and I've been doing graphic design for about 4 years now.
I want to pursue social work, to come back to my community and help the youth.
I'm studying accounting. My goal is to land a job with one of the big firms.
3 years ago, I decided it was time to get my college degree.
PTK has prepared me for all the ins and outs of college. Honestly, like everything else in my life, I just kind of fell headfirst into it. It was insane to meet so many like-minded people. It was like this whole little family that had programs and scholarships and opportunities that help you.
When I moved from Venezuela to the United States, I was lost. I was confused about a lot of things. I knew about Phi Theta Kappa. I have been able to help children and to help our community thanks to volunteering in Phi Theta Kappa.
Growing up in my community, I felt like I did not have so much support. I was missing out so much of the opportunities. Coming to PTK, it was something different. It's like, the mentors were there for me.
Phi Theta Kappa has opened many doors for me. It enabled me to go to a campus. I get to be interacting and get to stay right here in state. Without the scholarship opportunities, I would have had to go online.
I actually put it on my resume and it helped me get into the honors program where I'm going to be attending in the fall. I'm ready to take on the world's challenges because of PTK.
I don't think my college experience would have been as amazing as it really has been without PTK or my advisor.
Phi Theta Kappa has prepared me to go out there and impact the next generation.
I have had so many opportunities that I know in my country I would have never ever dreamed of having.
Hello, fellow Forsyth Tech students. I'm Lauren Uy, and I'm the Early College Forsyth's representative for student government. I hope your classes have been treating you well and that your workload has been light. I'm just coming on here to remind you all of the importance of our voting privilege. As the 2020 election is quickly approaching, I hope you all consider exercising your right to vote. Our vote is our voice, and we must remember that some of us aren't granted this right. It's important for us to use our vote to stand up for issues that impact our community and our families. To be eligible to vote, you must be a U.S. citizen, a resident of North Carolina, and at least 18 years old by the date of the next general election. You can either register to vote in North Carolina at the DMV, in person at your local County Board of Elections office, or on the County Board of Elections website. North Carolina has also permitted the use of online voter registration tools, which simplifies the process by submitting the form itself rather than you mailing it in. All you need to register with is a North Carolina ID or driver's license. And as a reminder, here are some of the available voting options: absentee by mail, in person during the early voting period, or in person on election day. If you want to vote absentee by mail, don't forget to submit your absentee ballot request to the Board of Elections office ahead of time. And if you participate in in-person voting, the County Board of Elections have constructed one-stop voting sites and will regularly sanitize voting equipment to ensure your safety. The North Carolina State Board of Elections will continue to update their guidelines in response to rapidly changing situations. But whichever option that is available to you, I do hope that you will all consider using your right to vote and advocate for issues that are important to you.
Good morning, my name is Paulina Solis Page. I'm an international student from Honduras. I am North Carolina Regional Vice President of Phi Theta Kappa, as well as Vice President of Leadership for the Alpha Mu Rho Chapter and Student Ambassador. I am grateful to participate in this event as an international student. Although I'm not allowed to vote in this country, having the right to do so should not be taken for granted. In my country, Honduras, the issue of transparency has long plagued the political scene. There are issues with poverty, economics, education, and healthcare. The main purpose for me coming to the States to earn my degree was to be in a position where I could be part of the solution. That's why my degree track is global affairs. Fortunately for American citizens, the political system is transparent and you do have the ability to advocate for change through your vote. Your voice matters, so please let it be heard. Thank you.
Good morning, students and faculty. My name is Lauren Uy, and I'm the Vice President of Forsyth Tech Student Government Association. I just wanted to thank you all for taking the time out of your day to view our virtual discussions panel. We created this event to commemorate Constitution Day and foster awareness for the importance of voting, the U.S. Constitution, and also the navigation of our political process. We hope that all of our viewers have their questions answered and take valuable knowledge out of this event. This event is important to high school students like me. It's because we don't have direct representation in our government until we're eligible to vote. But there's still avenues for high school students to get involved in the political process and advocate for ourselves. If you're at least 16 years of age, you can sign up at your local county boards of elections office to work as a poll worker. Especially now, many counties need poll workers. Another way to advocate for yourself is to contact your local and state representatives and see where they stand on issues that affect you and your community. And lastly, there is a plethora of local and national nonpartisan voter registration groups that are in need of outreach volunteers. Ultimately, it is important to consider that your involvement in the political process affects the future of this country. Thank you again for having me on here, and I do hope that you enjoy this event.
My name is Curtis Walker, and I am the president of the Student Government Association at Forsyth Technical Community College. Good morning to my fellow students, faculties, and administration members, to the staffs of political figures, college presidents, and more. On behalf of the Student Government Association of Forsyth Technical Community College and our student body, the faculty, administration, board of trustees, and our president, Dr. Janet Spriggs, I welcome you to the first Constitution Day virtual discussion panel. It is an honor to share in the efforts of many people who made this moment possible. Today is the culmination of the energies of so many, particularly my fellow SGA members Alexis Lum, Lauren Wu, Jeremy Brown, Keenan Lofton-Bell, Seth King, Christian Duggins, Annalena Tavares, and Paulina Solis Page. I also acknowledge the full commitment of the staff here at Forsyth Tech, like Miss Judy St. Sing, Miss Lauren Christmas, Miss Paula Dibley, Miss Jenny Terry, Miss Mason Sawyer, Mr. Kevin McCann, Mr. Paul Molsky, and so many others, but of special note, our advisor, Miss Beverly Lewis. Forsyth Tech is truly a place of promise. We believe that we are one student body in support of each other. It is that belief which allows us to dare to dream that our institutions can truly be places of equity and catalysts for economic mobility. The discussion you are about to take part in is about the word process. The political process, which affects each and every one of us, from the local taxes to the state tax on your purchase in Walmart to property tax or school tax, we are impacted by legislation and the execution of laws and policies. The men and women that you're about to hear from are your agents and duly elected or about to be elected extensions of your voice. Use your voice because it matters. Your voice matters because it changes the world. When you speak, people do listen. You are one of the fastest growing voter blocks in history. In the 2018 midterms, 40.3% of 10 million students turned out to vote. You are about to change the world. So as you listen and question and ponder what you are about to hear, know that at some point in a not too distant future, the world will look at you. Why? Because it truly is a process. You are the future and make it as bright as your dreams. Enjoy this discussion and thank you.
Good morning. My name is Mason Sawyer, and I'm the Vice President for Student Success Services here at Forsyth Tech. I would like to take just a few moments to extend a sincere welcome to each of you and thank you for attending our Constitution Day virtual discussion panel. Our SGA President, Mr. Curtis Walker, and his staff, along with our Office of Student Life and Engagement, have put together an amazing event that I know will be one of our best Constitution Days ever. We have colleges from all across our great state in attendance and even members of Waubonsee Community College in Sugar Grove, Illinois in attendance. Welcome to our community college colleagues and friends. I would also like to welcome our esteemed guests and panelists who have taken time out of their busy schedules to come and provide a better understanding of the political process, the Constitution, and the importance of voting. I'm certain we will all learn many valuable and timely insights that will empower us in this critical time in our nation. Again, on behalf of Forsyth Tech faculty, staff, and administration, I say welcome and enjoy today's event.
Hello, I'm
Good morning. My name is Curtis Walker. I am the president of SGA Forsyth Tech Community College, and welcome to our discussion panel. I'm taking this time now to read the instructions to the viewers and our live audience. On the screen, you will see a link to submit your questions to the panelists. At approximately 12 p.m., the submitted questions by those who are viewing via YouTube Live will begin to be processed into the discussion by the moderator. Please be advised to use civility in your questions and complete respect for the panelists, Forsyth Tech, those viewing, and the moderators. Note that any submission deemed unfit for discussion will not be asked. While every attempt to ask live questions will be made, there is no guarantee that your specific question will be asked. For our in-audience participants, please note that all the rules and policies that govern Forsyth Tech are applicable, and students be mindful of the student code of conduct. When an answer is given, please refrain from overtly loud reactions. Finally, this is a live discussion and usually guests of Forsyth Tech and should be treated with utmost respect. This time I will also read our disclaimer. Forsyth Technical Community College is providing this broadcast stream as a public service, but it is neither a legal interpretation nor a statement of Forsyth Tech policy. Reference to any specific product or entity does not constitute an endorsement or recommendation by Forsyth Tech. Views expressed by the guests are their own, and their appearance on this program does not imply an endorsement of them or any entity they represent. Views and opinions expressed by Forsyth Tech employees and or students are those of the employees and or students and do not necessarily reflect the view of Forsyth Tech Community College or any of its officials. If you have any questions about this disclaimer, please contact the Office of Student Life and Engagement. In the creation of this panel, every effort was made to contact a wide array of political figures in timelines so set forth. If we were unable to accommodate anyone, it is not due to partial treatment or the endorsement of any political view. This is a nonpartisan effort initiated by the Student Government Association of Forsyth Tech with its sole intent to engage our student body in the political process and its At this time, I would like to introduce someone who says that dreams are possible. She has recently been appointed to the Commission on Student Success at the American Association of Community Colleges. She is the 7th president of this institution. Prior to her appointment here, she served in various executive leadership roles at Rowan Virus Community College, 15 years as an executive leader at Carteret Community College. She has the unique honor of having been named an Aspen Presidential Fellow for the Community College Excellence twice. Additionally, she is the member of the advisory board for the Belk Center at North Carolina State University and on the North Carolina Teaching Fellows Commission. A former community college student and now the president. Ladies and gentlemen, president of Forsyth Tech Community College, please welcome Dr. Janet Spriggs.
Thank you so much, Curtis. It is my pleasure and my privilege to be here with you today. And I would like to welcome you all to our very first Student Government Association Constitution Day panel. We are excited that the students have done an incredible work pulling together a panel that will help us understand more about why our right to vote is so important in our democracy, and that will answer questions related to our Constitution on this special day, the observance of the signing of our Constitution 233 years ago. It is my pleasure to be able to welcome you all to Forsyth Tech, who, by the way, at Forsyth Tech on September 6th, we celebrated our 60th anniversary as a community college in North Carolina, serving the citizens of Stokes and Forsyth County in the greater Piedmont Triad region. I am here today. My job at this moment is to introduce our distinguished panelists. I would like to start with introducing to you this morning our State Senator, Ms. Joyce Provick. Thank you so much for being here. Interesting facts about Ms. Provick: she serves as the chairwoman of both the Appropriations on Health and Human Services and the Healthcare Committees, and owns a real estate development company. Thank you so much for joining us today, Senator. We're happy to have you here.
Thank you.
We also have with us today State Representative Derwin Montgomery. So good to see you, Mr. Montgomery. Mr. Montgomery is our representative for House District 72. He attended Winston-Salem State University and Duke University and serves as a pastor and a vice president at North Carolina NAAPC Youth and College Division. Thank you so much for being here, Representative Montgomery. We also have thank you. We also have today our mayor, Mayor Alan Joines, the mayor of Winston-Salem, who attended Appalachian State University and the University of Georgia and serves as president of the Winston-Salem Alliance and as public safety coordinator. Thank you, Mayor, for being here with us today. We have with us Ms. Annette Scipio, who is a Winston-Salem Council member who attended Howard University and Duke University and served as the Delta Fine Arts Executive Director and Del Monte Corporation Group Research Manager. Ms. Scipio, thank you so much for being here with us today.
Good morning, and thank you for asking.
We have with us Mr. John Hood, Director of the Locke Foundation. Mr. Hood attended the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill, and also serves as president of the John William Pope Foundation and as a panelist on North Carolina Spin. Mr. Hood, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thanks for having me.
We have with us Ms. Terry LeGrand. Ms. LeGrand is running for North Carolina Senate. She attended Wake Forest University and has helped create the Piedmont Earth Day Fair and served on the board of Forsyth Futures. Thank you so much, Ms. LeGrand, for being here today.
It's great to be here. Thank you.
We also have with us Ms. Kathy Manning. Kathy is North Carolina House 6th Congressional District candidate. Thank you for being here with us today, Ms. Manning. Ms. Manning attended the University of Michigan and Harvard University and served as leader in both United Way and the National Conference for Community and Justice. Thank you for being here, Kathy.
Thank you for inviting me.
We have with us Mr. Lee Haywood, North Carolina Republican Party 6th District Chairman, who works also as a successful small business owner. Mr. Haywood, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you for having me, and may I add that I'm also running for Congress in the 6th Congressional District.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you for adding that.
Absolutely. And we have finally with us on our panel today, Dr. Arwen Smallwood. Dr. Smallwood is professor and chair of the Department of History and Political Science at North Carolina A&T University, attended North Carolina Central University and Ohio State, and serves as a member of both the American Historical Association and the Association for the Study of African American Life and History. Thank you so much, Dr. Smallwood, for joining our panel today.
Thank you for the opportunity.
And with that, I would like to turn it back over to our students.
Good morning, panelists. We're so glad to have you. At this time, I'll read the Constitution Day panelists' questions, rules of the discussion. At any point, we realize that multiple panelists may have a response to the given answer. With your assistance, we ask that the response be limited to a 30-second retort and/or reply, and only 2 panelists at the most. Obviously, the course of the conversation can maintain its freedom, and we will lean upon the collective, unspoken social agreement between professional colleagues. Your initial reply to the question will have a time limit of 1 minute, and any retorts, again, will be 30 seconds. And so we'll start with the first question to Dr. Janet Spriggs. Does my vote count? And this will be an open discussion, and all panelists will have a time limit of 30 seconds. And we will go from Mr. Hood to Mr. Haywood to Mr. Hood to Ms. LeGrand. Then it will be Dr. Smallwood. Then it will be Ms. Annette Scipio. Then Ms. Kathy Manning. Then Senator Joyce Crowitz, and Dr. Smallwood at the end. Dr. Spriggs.
Thank you, Curtis. Your vote absolutely counts. I have 5 children, and I have always told my children that living in a democracy is a gift. And part of the way that we are accountable to that gift and are responsible for accepting ownership of that gift is by our vote, by using our voice to cast our vote and participate in this democracy. And so I've also always told my children that if they choose not to vote, I don't want to have discussion with them about the political outcome afterwards. I think it's our responsibility. I think that everyone's vote does count. There's a story about a man walking on the beach who saw the beach littered with starfish and a little boy throwing them into the ocean. And he asked the little boy, "What are you doing?" And the little boy said, I'm saving the starfish. And he said, "But it's only one. It doesn't matter. You can't possibly save all these starfish." And the little boy replied, "I just saved that one." And that story for me is representative of why it's important for you to vote and why every vote will in fact count. Thank you.
Dr. Spriggs. Mr. Haywood.
Well, I'll have to agree with Ms. Spriggs. I think it's incredibly important for everybody to utilize the right to vote. There's countless stories. One comes to mind of a lady a woman in Iraq after the Iraq War who lost both legs, who crawled and somehow got her way to a voting booth after a week to get her to vote and get that paint put on her thumb. I think it was red paint. And she went through incredible hardship to do that. And we take these things for granted, and especially our young people. There have been many races in this country that have been decided by one vote. And it's incredibly important that everybody gets to the poll. But, to reaffirm what Ms. Spriggs said, yes, every vote counts, and I encourage everybody to get registered as soon as they possibly can, even before they turn the age of 18. A lot of people don't realize that, as long as you're 18 on November 3rd or 4th or whenever the voting day is, you can register early. So a lot of people don't realize that. But I'll affirm what she says and what she had stated. And yes, every vote does count.
Just make sure we speak to everybody.
Open question.
So I would say certainly that every vote counts.
It is absolutely the case that we routinely experience elections, local and state, where just a handful of votes determines the outcome. Most recently in our neighboring Commonwealth of Virginia, the control of one of the state legislative chambers hinged on just a few votes. And the governor of North Carolina, Roy Cooper, was elected 4 years ago with only 0.2% margin of victory. So, of course, votes count. I would also say, though, that just as you have the right to vote, I think you have the obligation to cast an informed vote. So do your homework ahead of time. The internet and campaigns and others will provide you the information. As you go down the ballot, you see races you don't know anything about, you never did your homework about them. That tells you next time, cast an informed vote. I think you have an obligation as well as a right.
Thank you, Mr. Hood. Ms. Terry LeGrand.
Yes, thank you so much. Absolutely, exercising your right to vote is one of the most important things that you can do to make sure that your voice is heard. It is a hard-fought right for many women and people of color to be able to cast your vote, not something that is taken for granted by many people. And so certainly very important to cast your vote, and every vote does count.
Thank you so much. Mr. Montgomery.
He's muted.
See, that's the one thing we're supposed to remember, to hit the unmute button. But so simply, yes, every vote does count. Often when I'm asked that question, I share it with people. Just yesterday, I celebrated 5th anniversary of being elected to public office. And the fact that my election at 21 years old at Winston-Salem State University, running against a 16-year incumbent, every vote mattered. And I share with young people all the time that I would not be serving in public office today if it weren't for every vote showing up. So every vote does matter. But when we're talking about every vote mattering, we also have to contextualize why that's even a question. And we ask that question because there are often the feelings and the reality that sometimes voter suppression happens and people don't feel that their vote counts because of outside pressures that happen. But every vote does count.
Thank you so much. Ms. Annette Scipio.
Thank you. I am totally in agreement that every vote does indeed count. It counts because voting is a numbers game. The winner with the most votes typically wins and takes power. And that person has the ability to direct our nation or our state or our local municipalities. They influence and impact our communities. So it's very important that every citizen cast their vote and for the direction that they would like this country, our state, and our cities to go in. It is a marvelous privilege that we have. It is a privilege that comes with freedom, and we need to see it as that kind of right.
Oh my God.
Thank you so much for your answer. Ms. Kathy Manning.
Thank you. There is no doubt that every vote is important and every vote counts. I had the privilege in 2008 of serving on the legal team in North Carolina for President Obama when he was running in 2008. And in that election, he won the state of North Carolina by only 2 votes per precinct. Think about that. If one person had stayed home at every precinct, he might never have been president. So if you think your vote doesn't matter, you need to think again. You also need to think about people who have fought and died for the right to vote, and we need to honor them by making sure that every one of us does our homework and then gets out and vote.
Thank you so much. Senator Joyce Crowder.
Thank you. Absolutely, every vote counts. It is so important that we each exercise our right to vote. And as one of my colleagues on the panel here noted, it needs to be an informed vote. So hopefully everyone will do their homework. And it's important that people vote all the way down the ballot. We have so many who show up, particularly in a presidential race, just to vote for the president. and don't vote for the down ballot candidates. And that is so important that we do our homework and that we vote for all those that are on the ballot. And to give you an example, my last primary election, I won by 228 votes. So every vote does count. Some of my colleagues have won by single digits. So every vote does count, and it's very important. And I encourage particularly all the students to make sure that they're registered and that they cast their vote on election day, or early voting, or absentee, which we have already started in North Carolina. So it's most important that we cast our vote, because your vote does count.
Thank you so much. Mr. Smallwood.
Again, I just would like to, reiterate everything that my colleagues have said. And of course, as a historian, just take us back to the Civil War era and the fact that many North Carolinians got the right to vote, not just African Americans, but poor whites in the state of North Carolina. And because they had that right to vote, really transformed the state of North Carolina, particularly when we talk about education. So it's important to understand that the right to vote matters. We wouldn't have many of the institutions that we have today, state-supported institutions, community colleges, had it not been for that franchise being extended to many North Carolinians. So just, again, supporting what all of the panelists have said, the right to vote is extraordinarily important. Every vote does matter. One vote can decide not just a state election, but a national election. And so voting is very important.
Thank you, sir. And finally, Mayor Allen Joins.
He's muted.
He's muted.
Tell him.
I think you're muted, Mayor Join.
Sorry about that. Everything's been said, I think, that needs to be said. I would just say ditto. I'm reminded of the Gore-Bush challenge down in Florida, where it got down to actually looking at the hanging chads on the vote card. So definitely everyone should get out and vote, utilize their franchise. That's what the Constitution's all about.
Thank you, sir. The next question will start with Senate candidate Terry LeGrand, Senator Joyce Clowett, and Representative Dermot Montgomery. From a state level, which elected official impacts my life on a daily basis? Senate candidate Terry LeGrand will go first. Senator Joyce Clowett will go second. Representative Dermot Montgomery will go third. Senate candidate Terry LeGrand.
Thank you so much for that question. And thank you to the Student Government Association for putting together this excellent panel in Forsyth Tech. I really appreciate the opportunity to be here and celebrate our Constitution today. Really every level matters, and there are unique responsibilities for elected representatives at every single level. School boards determine attendance zones and set school policy. The city council enacts local ordinances and the city budget and property taxes within the city limits. The mayor carries out a key role during emergencies. He recommends appointments to city boards and commissions that impact us very much on a day-to-day basis. County commissioners adopt an annual budget. They set property taxes. They enact zoning and land use policies and other county level policies. And then, of course, the General Assembly sets the state budget, redistricting, and serves as a check and balance on many of the other levels. So I think the answer is the elected representatives, the people you elect with your vote, matter at every single level.
Thank you for your answer. Senator Joyce Clowett. Senator Joyce, you are muted. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. I agree with my colleague. Your elected officials at every level impact your lives every day. Each branch of government has a particular function at the local level as well as at the state level. I think right now, I would say the governor probably has more influence over our lives because of the pandemic and because of the things that we've had to adjust the state to do. So he definitely has had to exercise a lot of power to keep our state safe. But every elected official has a specified duty at every level and it is very important. Each role is very important to all the citizens. And I think government, I've always thought government closest to the people is the government that works best, because you see those folks every day. Mayor Joines, he sees the people that he represents every day in the grocery store, as we do as well. But they recognize him and they know him because he's closest to the people. The same with our county commissioners and our local elected council members on all of the councils within the. Thank you, sir. My time is up, but thank you.
Ma'am.
They're all important.
Representative Durham Montgomery, sir.
Yeah, I'll say ditto to what has already been said. I think they're all important, but I will say and acknowledge my bias as someone who spent a significant amount of time, almost 10 years on local government. I gotta say that I believe that local government being the closest to the people is probably one of the most important levels for folks to engage, because when you cut on your water faucet at your house, which you use every day, that's local government, that's city council work. When you drop your kids off, when you could drop your kids off at school, that is county and school boards. When you call 911 and a fire department or police department shows up, that's your local government. And those are things that we use every single day. Trash that's picked up during the week, that's local government, and it's happening every single day. And I think that state and federal government often enables those things to happen on the local level. But the local government, I think, is probably one of the things that we touch, feel each and every day in so many different movements of our life. But to Senator Krawick's point, I think right now in the midst of this pandemic, there's a lot more influence that we're seeing from state and federal government that we don't normally see on a day-to-day basis.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your answer. The next question will go to Mayor Alan Joines, Councilwoman Annette Scipio, and Mr. Lee Haywood, the chairman of the Republican Party 6th District, as well as he's also running for office. The question is, from a local level, which elected official impacts my life on a daily basis the most? And we will go Mayor Alan Joines first, Councilwoman Annette Scipio second, Representative Mr. Lee Haywood will go third, and Mayor Alan Joines.
And Curtis, I think you might want to go to the next question. Sorry, I think we just answered that one.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Curtis.
Yes. So the next question will be, we'll go to Senator, why don't we split that question and go to question number 5. Would it be better to vote in person through mail during this pandemic? And we'll go through Mayor Alan Joines first, and then all panelists will have 30-second reply, and we will go in the same arrangement as we went before. Mr. Lee Haywood will go first, Ms. Terry Lamb will second, Mr. John Haywood will go third, 4th will be Representative Durham Montgomery, 5th will be Annette Scipio, 6th will be Ms. Kathy Manning, 7 will be Senator Joyce Krawick, 8 will be Dr. Irwin Smallwood, and 9 will be Mayor Alan Joines. Mayor Alan Joines, you start, and 9 will be, of course, Dr. Janet Spriggs. Mayor Alan Joines.
Thank you. And the question is, should we be doing more voting by mail during the pandemic? And I think we got to offer a number of alternatives to our citizens to make sure that folks do get out and vote. I think I saw a number of over 20,000 requests already here in Forsyth County. About 800 and some have already voted, the last numbers I saw. I think North Carolina, and John Hood, correct me on this, but I think North Carolina is one of about 27 states in the country that offer early voting. So we'll give citizens a chance beginning October 15th through November 1st to vote, and then, of course, election day. So I think it's extraordinarily important that we make it.
Is now joining.
It makes it easy in many ways for our citizens to be able to vote. I heard a discussion day before yesterday on NPR about the slowdown in voting, the lower numbers that are voting, particularly among millennials, who maybe get a little confused about. Somebody mentioned earlier on the call, they get their ballot and they think they're going in just to vote for the president, but there's 25, 30 other folks on that ballot, and we got to make sure they understand, as Senator Krawick mentioned, get on down that ballot and vote all the way down, particularly when you get down to the mayor's race. Make sure you get there. But so I think my answer would be let's give many options as possible, make it as easy as possible for folks to get out and vote.
Thank you, Mayor Alan Joines. Be mindful that the next answers will be 30 seconds. Ms. Terry LeGrand.
Completely agree with Mayor Joines. We have three safe and effective ways to cast your ballot in this election, by no excuse absentee, early voting, and same day election day voting. So definitely important to make a plan for how you're going to vote and follow through with that plan. And it's also important that if you want to vote on election day, check your registration before you plan to go vote on election day. Check it before October 9th, I believe, is the deadline for registration for election day voting. If you want to vote early, you can register and vote on the same day. So make a plan, check your registration, and make sure to vote.
I'm sorry, I believe I have gone out of order, and so we'll go to Mr. Lee Haywood next.
That's not a problem. I have no qualms with mail-in voting. You know, actually the safest way is absentee voting. I encourage everyone, if they're don't think they're going to be there in town on election day, to get an absentee voting form. The problem I have maybe with this system, everybody's in uncharted territory now, and we need safeguards in place if we're going to go to new systems to vote. And this mailing voting, we need to make sure that there are safeguards there to make sure that there is one person, one vote, that one person, one vote is safeguarded. And that's the only thing I would have to say about that. We need to make it as accessible to everybody to vote, to cast their vote. But we need to make it as safe as possible to prevent any kind of fraud or misuse of the system. Thank you.
Mr. John Hood.
I got knocked out. I think the internet is down in large swaths of the state at the moment. So I didn't hear the initial question, but if it's about security of the vote, my answer is, as the other panelists have said, we have many safe and well-administered ways to vote. Many, though not all, but most of the conspiracy theories you will hear about vote machines being hacked or the system being taken over or votes being mishandled, that's usually false. There are some risks. I think North Carolina has taken reasonable safeguards to protect the integrity of the voting process. I think people should cast ballots with the confidence that their vote will be properly counted.
Thank you, sir. Representative Durham Montgomery.
Yeah, so I think that it's already been laid out. We have multiple ways for us to vote in North Carolina. The fact is, we don't have an all mail-in voting system in North Carolina. The fact is, the only way you get to mail in a ballot is if you're requesting an absentee ballot. And so with that, I think that you should use whatever method works for you. If you feel comfortable going in and casting your ballot, go in and cast your ballot. If you want to do an absentee ballot, do an absentee ballot, but do what's comfortable and keeps you safe in this time frame, and one that you know you can have your vote in by close of business on November.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Annette Scipio.
Yeah. Everyone said all the right things about voting. People can choose whichever way they like to vote. But the most critical thing is vote once. You must either send in your absentee ballot or you go and vote in person, whether that's early voting or on November 3rd. Do not do both, because your vote then gets invalidated. That's when it will not count. So we must make sure people know the right things to do and do it. We want you to vote, whatever method you're the most comfortable with, but only vote once.
Thank you, Ms. Annette Scipio. That's an interesting point. Ms. Kathy Manning.
I just want to thank Councilwoman Scipio for reminding everybody that we should only vote once, because I think there has been a lot in the news by somebody else telling people to vote twice, and people in North Carolina are smart enough to know you can only vote once in this state. Because we are living through this unprecedented pandemic, people do need to think carefully about how they choose to vote, because we want everybody to feel safe. And Representative Montgomery said, make a plan. And I think that's, or maybe it was Terry LeGrand who said, make a plan. But that is what we're encouraging people to do. Understand the 3 different ways you can vote and think through it, make a plan, and carry through. And I'd like to just add one thing that we haven't talked about yet. You can fill out your absentee ballot, and then you can hand it in person. If you are concerned about the mail, and we certainly understand why people might be concerned about the mail right now. If you're concerned about the mail, fill out your absentee ballot, and then starting on October 15th, you can choose one of many, many polling sites, and you don't have to go to any specific one. You can find one that is convenient for you, that you think will not be too busy, so you don't have to stand in line with lots of people. And we're urging people to find a time of day where you're not likely to have a high number of people standing in line. So don't go first thing in the morning before work. Don't go at lunchtime. Don't go right after work. If you can find a time mid-morning, mid-afternoon, when there are likely not to be heavy lines. And my understanding is there will be a person at every polling location whose only job is to accept absentee ballots that people are bringing to hand in person. So that's an important for people to understand, because we want everybody to feel safe. We want everybody to vote.
Thank you. I didn't mean to cut you off. Thank you very much. Senator Joyce Crowitz.
Thank you. My colleagues have pretty much covered it. Great advice from everybody. We do have options. I personally always vote in person, but I do take advantage of early voting, because one year I had to, before we had early voting, I was hospitalized and got out of the hospital in order to go vote. So as soon as we had the opportunity to vote early, I thought, I am always going to take advantage of it, just in case. My husband is exactly the opposite. He refuses to vote anytime except Election Day. And he just loves the opportunity to go stand in line and wait with everybody else. And that's just what he does. I try to get him to go early when it's not as crowded, and he's like, nope, I'm going on Election Day. So everybody needs to know what the options are this time. I think we probably will have far more absentee ballots cast this year than ever before, because some folks just aren't going to feel safe going to the polls in person. So I think it's imperative that everybody realize what the options are that they have, and exercise their right to vote.
Thank you, ma'am. And finally, Dr. Arlen Smallwood for 30 seconds, please, sir.
You're muted.
You are muted, Dr. Smallwood.
Okay, I'm sorry. Thank you. But just agreeing with what everyone else has said, and just understanding these various ways to vote. We have populations, the elderly, who are at risk from COVID, so giving them the opportunity to vote a different way is great. We have a large military population here in the state of North Carolina, and oftentimes maybe a way served in our country, and so they need a different way to vote. So, and we have students, lots of students who are displaced currently. So I think that having the various options are necessary, and I think they ensure democracy and ensure that we will have a safe and fair election.
Thank you, sir. I'd like to thank all the panelists for their kind treatment of me during my period of moderation. The next part of this moderation will be directed by North Carolina Regional Vice President, Ms. Paulina Solis-Page. Ms. Page.
Good morning. I would like to welcome you all to this panel. I would like to respectfully restate the rules of discussion. We have a nonpartisan affiliation to this virtual panel. The views and or opinions expressed are not necessarily the views or opinions of Forsyth Tech. At any point, we realize that multiple panelists may have a response to the given answer. With your assistance, we ask that the response be limited a 30-second retort, 2 panelists at most. Obviously, the course of the conversation can maintain its freedom, and we will lean upon the collective unspoken social agreement between professional colleagues. Mr. John Hood, in simple terms, what are electoral votes and why are they important?
Well, as we all know, the Electoral College, which was created in the Constitutional Convention and was part of our structure of government from the very beginning, is technically the body that casts votes for president.
Though really shortly after it was created, it became sort of a moot point, and states were allocating their electoral votes, which is basically the total of their congressional delegation, their House members and 2 senators in each place. They were allocating those in ways the legislature determined, but was typically whoever got the most votes in the state. So technically, we don't have a popular vote for president. We have a series of 51 contests, including the District of Columbia. Some say this is a good system because it ensures that presidential candidates have to campaign outside of just really populated areas. Some argue that it's not a good system because there are occasions, and we've now seen 2 in most of our lifetimes, where you get a minority, you could get less than the plurality of electoral votes, of popular votes, and still get the electoral votes. I believe the Electoral College is worth preserving, but it has become controversial of late. I think that without it, there would have been no Constitution, there would have been no compromise on the Senate and House representation and its effects on presidential elections. But I recognize this is a sensitive topic because of recent events.
Thank you, Mr. Hood. I would like to ask the same question to Dr. Smallwood.
I apologize. I have to remember to turn the mute off. But it's as Mr. Hood has already stated. I mean, when the country was first developed, and there was this pull between, how much influence should the people have, and how much influence should a select few individuals have. And so when we talk about the Electoral College, I feel that that is kind of reflective of that. So when we talk about the popular vote, or we talk about people who are elected for representing a particular state, casting their votes, again, it gets back to recent elections, Gore's election, perhaps Hillary Clinton's election, those election cycles, and people had concerns about the fact that the popular vote went one way and then the electoral votes go another. So again, it's part of our system. We as the American people have an opportunity, or will have opportunities, to adjust and change the system, but it is part of our system today. And although it can be controversial, it was instilled in the Constitution to basically have a balance between the popular vote and those individuals at that time who they thought would make those could make better decisions. I'm trying not to say too much because I'm going to lead into my next question about how the Constitution, whether it's a free-flowing document or not. So I'm trying not to get into that discussion. So I'll stop.
Thank you. Councilwoman Scipio, how can a non-eligible voter still participate in political processes? Ma'am, you're muted.
I love this question because we don't oftentimes think about non-eligible voters not being able to participate, but we have to think about who are those non-eligible voters. Well, every legal resident in the United States is eligible to vote unless something has happened to take their voting rights away from them, such as going to prison. In our state, convicted felons who have served their time and have completed probation and can now vote. So their rights can be maintained. Residents have to also be 18 years or older. So we're looking at youth. How can they impact and participate, as well as those who are not legal residents at this time? All of them can be active participants because they become critical influencers. One of the things that was in the last election that was very, very insightful to me, I had my grandchildren who came home from school one day and they had done mock voting. They were 11 and 12, and boy, did they have strong political opinions. And they had made their elections. And I thought, wow, this is so wonderful. So even our young people can get actively engaged. They can have conversations with their parents, their grandparents, their neighbors to influence the vote. And those who are incarcerated can also have those discussions, as well as those who are not legal residents right now. they can influence those who are eligible to vote. So those who are not eligible right now, I think that their role is really to be great influencers, talking, helping to get out
Thank
the
you,
vote.
Councilwoman Scipio.
Thank you.
Dr. Arwen Smallwood, was the U.S. Constitution meant to be reviewed and or updated over the years?
Now I can speak more freely because certainly the document was and is. I mean, it's a free flowing document. And we all know that when the Constitution was first drafted, that African Americans didn't have the right to vote, women didn't have the right to vote. And very few people, I think, realize that in the American South, in states like North Carolina, poor whites did not have the right to vote. Poor whites got the right to vote at the same time that African Americans, former slaves, got the right to vote. So the document evolves as our nation grows, as our nation develops. We see the document developing, we see it changing. That's the reason for the amendments to the Constitution. And we see amendments being added to the Constitution to emancipate slaves, to give them citizenship, to give them the right to vote. We see amendments added to the Constitution to give women the right to vote. So we see this document growing and evolving from its beginnings in the 1700s to the present day. And we still have the ability as Americans to add additional amendments to the Constitution and to update the document. So certainly, again, when we talk about the Electoral College, or if we talk about any of the other issues that are topics of discussion for both political parties in this time or in the future, that document certainly can be adjusted to reflect the new realities that we find ourselves in the future.
Thank you. State Representative Kathy Manning, how prevalent is voter fraud and how is it relevant to absentee voting? This will be an open discussion, so we'll start with Kathy Manning.
Okay, thank you very much. Voter fraud in this country is exceedingly rare. It has never been viewed as a problem until recently. President Trump created an election integrity commission to investigate voter fraud because he believed that there had been widespread voter fraud when he realized that he had lost the popular vote by about 3 million votes. That commission did its work, but was in fact disbanded in August of 2018, and it uncovered no evidence of widespread voter fraud. Now, there was an incident of voter fraud in this state in 2018 when a Republican operative went house to house and collected people's ballots and then marked them and mailed them in himself. But that effort was to commit fraud was not committed by the actual voters. It was committed by somebody who was paid by a campaign, and that effort was easily discovered. And that election was set aside and a new election was held. So
thank you. Next, we'll have Dr. Smallwood.
I think my colleague has addressed the issue thoroughly. That again, although we do have conversations about voter fraud, I think that if we look at North Carolina elections and we look at elections nationally, there has not to date been documented and proven any extensive voter fraud. And again, if we're speaking directly to North Carolina, again, as she has already outlined, the issue that we see is with that particular election where we had the individual who collected and marked the ballots. So again, things there can perhaps be examples here and there of of an incident, but by and large our election process is secure here in the state of North Carolina. I think North Carolinians know their minds and they know how they want to vote. If we look at previous presidential and governor's races, people go to the polls and they split over the governor and they split over the president. So thank you.
Mr. John Hood.
I'll take a slightly different tack. I agree that voter fraud is rare in the North Carolina and the nation today. It does happen, and there are a few cases where we've had to order new elections, local elections in the eastern part of the state because of vote buying scandals of various kinds. The one thing I would disagree with a little bit about is it used to be more prevalent. So I don't think this is something that we never worried about until just now. I actually think that in the last 30 years or so, voter fraud has become rarer because it's become harder. And there used to be more extensive voter fraud, particularly in rural areas with sheriffs and other political machines controlling ballots. That was a bigger problem then than it is now.
We'll move to the next questions, and let me remind you, it's just 30 seconds. State Representative Derwin Montgomery, do you believe that we are currently living in a true democracy in the United States?
We live in a form of democracy in the United States, and mostly called representative democracy, where we elect individuals to go make policy on our behalf. We elect a council member to represent a particular ward, represent a state representative to represent a district to make policy. But generally in the United States, individual citizens aren't voting on specific policies and voting on the creation of legislation. I think sometimes it even with the challenges we see in conversations more recently, as was stated by Mr. Hood around the Electoral College, I think sometimes makes people, feeling whether or not we're in a real democracy because the popular vote doesn't elect our president. But in every other space, individuals directly elect the folks who represent them. And so we have a representative form of government, which is a form of democracy that could evolve, could change. I think, younger people are want to be more engaged. And particularly, I think we may see one day where, city councils may put out, electronic form of voting on a policy or an agenda they have where folks really actually get an ability to vote directly on policy. Today, that's not necessarily universally widespread, but, things can change.
Thank you. Mr. Don Hood, how do I know that my vote is secure?
Well, quite literally, as has perhaps been mentioned in the past, in North Carolina, there is a system. If you were to request an absentee ballot, then cast that ballot, mail that ballot in or drop it off, you can actually sign up for a system that will let you know if, for example, you have fouled your ballot in some way, you neglected to sign it, there's a problem with the witness signature, something like that. It's not a perfect system, and there are cases. I'm a little worried that with so many more people casting mail ballots, there may be some inadvertent spoiling of ballots, as we've seen in New York and some other places, people just making some mistakes on the ballot and not knowing there's a problem, not being able to fix it. But in general, I think we should have confidence that our system works well. There are potential abuses. There are, I think, more significantly, potential mistakes that could lead to inadvertently people's ballots not counting. But that argues for, again, doing your homework and following the instructions carefully.
Thank you. Senate candidate Terry LeGrand, I understand that campaigning is expensive. Are there alternative ways for people to run for a position without spending money?
Well, the most important thing that everyone's laughing. The most important thing that you can do as a campaign is connect with people in your community and build a strong grassroots movement with the people that you meet. You can knock on doors, or at least you could before this pandemic. I'm not knocking on doors right now because it's not safe, but you can go to farmers markets, you can meet with people. In my campaign, we've held Facebook Live events, we've held Zoom meetings, we've made thousands of phone calls to get the word out. So the answer is yes, you can. It's much more difficult, though, to connect with the number of voters that you need to really get your message out without those campaign funds. So it's not a perfect system. I wish it were better.
Thank you. I'll ask the same question to Dr. Haywood.
Okay, I don't have that higher education degree, so it's Mr. Haywood, but I'll take it though. Thank you for that.
I apologize.
That's okay. That's all right. Listen, this pandemic has changed the way everybody's going to campaign from here on out. It's going to, we've had to go to social media and Zoom calls, so on and so forth. So in that respect, I think it's a good thing that it might reduce the amount of money that has to be raised to run. And I just want to go back and correct Ms. Manning that McCrae Dowless was also an operative for the Democrat Party in previous elections and did the exact same thing in previous elections for Democrat candidates. And he just happened to be caught when he did it for the Republicans when a Democrat was running the Board of Elections. So I just wanted to correct that little point for Ms. Manning.
Thank you. I would like to ask the same question to Senator Krovic, please.
Well, as my colleague said, times have changed, and this campaign is very different from any previous campaigns that we have had. It is very difficult to run. I think at the local level, you can do a lot more because you are closer to the people and it's easier to reach out to them. So you can do a lot more grassroots activity. But I've been doing grassroots activity on issues and for other candidates for 30 years, and it's very effective. It's just very hard to reach the number of people that you need to reach when you're doing it one-on-one. So the funds are usually necessary, but there's certainly a lot of things that you can do that don't cost money, that do reduce the cost of campaigning. But you need both. You need the grassroots organization, but you do need the funds. But I encourage everybody to be involved in the process, helping candidates, knocking on doors, making phone calls, whatever you can do. It's very important.
Thank you. Dr. Spriggs, are there issues with voter registration on campuses, and what steps can be made to minimize them?
Thank you, Paulina. That's a great question. You know, we are not affiliated with any particular party with regards to our political process, but we are very much encouragers of exercising our rights to vote. And so many campuses, first of all, let me say colleges make that decision on their own about whether or not they are going to promote voter registration activities on their campus. I think that what we have to remember to do is to promote the process with our students. And as we've talked about, the importance of everyone exercising their right to be a part of electing our governmental officials without letting ourselves be partisan in any way. And as long as we can do that, I do believe that it is part of our right as part of our obligation as educators to, again, help our students grow in academically as well, their whole person, their whole growth. And so there can be problems with it, but I think if we manage it properly, it's absolutely our obligation and our mission to be able to ensure that our students are able to register to vote on our campus and understand the importance of the process and why it's important to vote.
Thank you. The next part of this moderation will be directed by Vice President of the Student Government Association, Ms. Lauren Uy.
Lauren, my apologies, but I don't think we could hear you. No, I'm sorry. It's too low. We need another microphone, I believe, Lauren.
Hi, panelists. Can you hear me now? All right, thank you so much. Thank you for your patience. I'll proceeding with questions coming from the live audience. To Mr. Haywood, Kathy Manning and Ms. LeGrand and Senator Joyce Krovic. What inspired you to run for office? Was it a specific event or person in your life that motivated you? And do you have any advice for young students aspiring to do the same?
You starting off with me?
Yes, Mr. Haywood.
Thank you for the question, and thank you all for all you future leaders for holding this today. I really appreciate it. It's y'all that are going to be our lead our country here moving forward, and we do appreciate what you're doing. Really, I have been politically aware all my life, but only became politically active in the last 10 or 12 years. Been busy building up a small business and really didn't have time. And, I voted in every election. I thought that was enough. Well, it became apparent that that's not enough. And about 10 years or so ago, I got active in politics. I'm more or less a libertarian more than I am a Republican. And I became concerned about the direction our country was taking. And I decided to start advocating for candidates and causes, and got involved with the Republican Party to help in those efforts. In the past few years, I've been chairman of the 6th Congressional District. But when my friend Mark Walker decided not to run in the newly redrawn 6th District, I felt it was time to utilize my talents as far as a party activist and try to save this district from falling into liberal hands. And, there needs to be two sides of the story, and there needs to be a choice for people to vote on in the election, and that's why I jumped in this particular race. But I love this country, and I love this district, and I wanted to play a part. Thank you.
All right, thank you for your response, Mr. Haywood. Ms. Kathy Manning.
Yes, I decided to run when I saw the Republicans working so hard to repeal the Affordable Care Act. I had an experience when my youngest daughter was diagnosed with a chronic illness, and I had to fight with my insurance company to get the medication that she needed to get her healthy. And when I saw what people go through, even people who have good health insurance, I became deeply concerned about what happens to other people, particularly people who don't have health coverage. And so when I saw the Republicans working so hard to take away health insurance from millions and millions of people with no plan that they were going to offer in sight, I decided to jump in because I think we need people who care about the future of this country and understand that people desperately need health care. If you don't have your health, you can't keep your job, you can't take care of your family. That's what got me to jump in.
Thank you for your response, Ms. Kathy Manning. Moving on to Ms. Terry LeGrand.
Thank you so much for that question. I'm a attorney, a college administrator, a former teaching parent in a group home, a single mom, a community volunteer, and all of those experiences have helped me to come to understand that people are struggling in our community. Our economy is leaving too many people behind. Healthcare costs are skyrocketing. Our schools are starved of the funding that they need, and jobs don't pay enough for people to make ends meet. And so my understanding of all of those issues is what compelled me to jump in to run to hopefully flip this Senate District 31 so that the Democrats can take the majority in the North Carolina Senate and turn our state around and make progress for the people of North Carolina.
Thank you for your response, Ms. Terry LeGrand. Moving on to Senator Krovic. Senator Krovic.
Thank you. Forgot to turn my mute off.
You're good.
Or on. I never wanted to run for office. It's not something that I ever expected to do or wanted to do. I have been very politically active for more than 30 years, but always helping other candidates, working on issues that were important to me, working in the community. I just never felt the urge to run for public office. And so I never did. People always ask me, well, why don't you run for office? You're so active and you're so involved. I did a lot of citizen lobbying. I spent lots of time at the legislature, probably more than many of the paid lobbyists did. So it was, government was important to me because I know, and I also know that government goes to those who show up. And if you don't show up, government doesn't hear your voice. My representative from the North Carolina House passed away, and I was asked to fill his vacancy to take that seat. And so I did that. And then I was asked to fill a vacancy in the Senate. And in fact, when I was sworn into the Senate, Governor McCrory at the time made the comment that I'm in the book of Guinness Book of Records, that I'm the only person in North Carolina to serve in the House and Senate without ever being elected. So of course I did go on to be elected 3 more times, but it's not something I sought to do. It just sort of happened that I was asked to take on this task. And so I'm honored now to represent the citizens of the district, but not something I set out to do. It was just sort of an accident that had happened, but I'm honored to be there.
All right, thank you for your response, Senator Joyce Krovic. We'll be moving on to the next question that's addressed to Mayor Alan Joines, Doreen Montgomery, and Senator Joyce Krovic again. And I would like to remind our panelists, please keep your responses between 30 to 45 seconds. So the question is, what is your opinion on felons being able to vote? And why doesn't the system immediately give them their right to vote back after they complete their sentence, along with probation? Mayor Alan Joines.
Look, you know, I think once a convicted felon serves their time, gets finished with their probation, and makes restitution if that's required, I certainly believe that they should have the right to vote. Unfortunately, we've seen instances, particularly in Florida, where that's been more difficult. But I think it gives these individuals an impetus to get back into society and become an active part of society and probably help with their rehabilitation. So I support that.
Thank you for your response, Mayor Alan Joines. State Representative Doreen Montgomery.
Yeah, you know, well, North Carolina is one of those states that, prior to many others, actually allowed for formerly incarcerated, particularly felons, to gain the right to vote back after they've completed their probation. I'm one that actually have a philosophy that I don't believe that it's a right that should ever be taken, even if you've broken the law. I believe that that is a constitutional right given to us. And as long as I'm a citizen, and although folks will argue that the Constitution in that area is a little gray about incarcerated individuals and their citizenship, but I would say that I really believe that that is a right that should never be taken from anyone, even if they've broken the law for whatever reason. And even when you come out and you're working, you are taxed. And I think that if you don't get to vote, that is taxation, and you don't get to have the representation because you don't get to participate in the process.
All right, thank you for your response, Representative Montgomery. And moving on to Senator Krovic.
Thank you. I agree with Mayor Joines. Once you have served your time, have made restitution, if that's what is required, that you absolutely should be allowed. Your voting rights should be restored. I think North Carolina has had the system for quite some time, and where that is allowed, and I certainly support that. I think anyone who has paid their dues to society as required by whatever their sentencing guideline was, then I think they absolutely should have their voting rights restored and should be able to be involved in the process.
All right, thank you for your response, Senator Krovic. Moving on to the next question from the live audience. This is addressed to political writer Hood and Dr. Smallwood. How can we prevent politicians from abusing their powers as elected officials? Mr. Hood, can you please start off?
We have various means to try to hold public officials accountable when they misuse their power. None of them are perfect, and we should all recognize that human beings are who we are. Our institutions reflect our flaws. So there will always be political corruption at some form or the other in any political institution. But we can, again, do our homework, follow closely the media coverage and the organizations that look at public integrity to find out what people have done. We can ask public officials pointed questions about their votes and their behavior, and prioritize integrity as one of the reasons why you choose the candidate to vote for. You may agree with someone, but if you lack trust in their integrity and their honesty, I think that should influence your vote. I think that political pressure is part of the way that we police misuse of government power, which again is inevitable, but we can minimize it if we all do our part.
All right, thank you for your response, Mr. Hood. Moving on to Dr. Smallwood.
I would agree with Mr. Hood. I mean, at the end of the day, it's the responsibility of all citizens to observe their politicians, to look at what they have done, their votes, talk with them, and understand whether or not they're doing what is in the interest of hopefully our state, your local community, your city, your county, or our nation. And again, we as citizens have to do that. And I agree with him also about integrity. I mean, at the end of the day, when we look at the greatest politicians on the national, local, or state level, they have always looked out for the interests of the people of the state of North Carolina or our nation, but not their own personal interests, but what is in the best interests of the people in the future. And I think that we have to look at that when we're holding our politicians accountable for what they do or don't do.
All right, thank you for your response, Dr. Smallwood. I would like to proceed on to the next question that's open to all panelists. As a reminder, please keep your responses 30 seconds long. How could we get elected officials that understand the common person? And I would like to start off with State Representative Montgomery, moving on to Dr. Smallwood, then Mr. Haywood, and then Dr. Spriggs, and then Terry LeGrand, and then Councilwoman Annette Scipio, and then Kathy Manning, and then Senator Krovic. Please start off, Mr. Montgomery.
So at the end of the day, I think to understand the common person, you have to be willing and open to have conversation with people that are different, willing to sit down at the table and talk through issues and challenges. I think that as elected officials right now, challenges with gerrymandering, I think sometimes challenge that because sometimes you only have to pander per se to your base. And I think that we have to be elected in districts and communities that cause us to come to the center and bring people together. And there we get to understand everyday people's challenges, everyday people's struggles, and you don't have to go to one base over the other. And I think that that's a part of our challenge in our state and quite frankly across the country right now.
All right, thank you for your response. Moving on to Dr. Smallwood.
And again, I would echo that as well. I've had the privilege of, not just traveling all over the state of North Carolina, but all over this country through West Virginia, Appalachia, the Midwest, Tennessee. And there are good people all over this country. And there are good people all over the state of North Carolina, whether they're Democrats or Republicans. And I think when we understand the humanity that we are all looking for the same things, that we want our children to be secure and safe, we want our families to prosper. I think when we communicate with one another, then we have a better system of government. We have better politics, so we don't demonize each other, but that we're striving for what's in the best interest of our nation. So I would echo what my colleague has said, and I would like to think and hope that in the future, I've lived a long time, but I did not expect to see us in the current situation that we're in, and I hope better for the future.
Thank you for your response, Dr. Smallwood. Moving on to Mr. Haywood.
As far as elected officials, understanding the plights of the common man, for lack of a better word, I think they should stay in their districts as much as possible. And as far as the race that I'm running in, 6th Congressional District, I plan on, staying in my district instead of in Washington. I think these congressmen and these, even in the state House, they stay in Raleigh too much. I know Joyce stays in her district quite a bit, and I think she stays in touch with her constituents. But this is not the way our founding fathers intended Congress to operate. It was not meant to be a job. And these House representatives, the members of the House representatives, should be back in their district as much as possible, conversing with their constituents. And another solution might be term limits. I mean, these elected officials get ingrained, and like I said, it becomes a job to them, a career, and that's not the way it was meant to be. And so I think it's up to us to hold them accountable. I think it's up to the constituents to hold these elected officials to accountable and make sure that they go to these town hall meetings and demand that these elected officials hold town hall meetings to make sure that they let their voices be heard. Thank you.
All right, thank you for your response, Mr. Haywood. I would like to proceed with Dr. Spriggs.
Thank you so much, Lauren. I think that what Dr. Smallwood said really resonated with me. That the issue is that and I'm not a fan of the common person or the common man term. I think that it's about humanity. It's really about that this process, this democracy is for all people. And that we should not, that everyone should be able to be respected and and come to the table. I agree with Dr. Smallwood also that I never expected for us to be where we are today. Either I've lived a long time too, and I do hope that we can be better in the future and that it can be about remembering that everyone should have a voice and that everyone should have an equitable opportunity to have their voice heard within our democracy and by our elected officials.
Thank you for your response, Dr. Spriggs. I would like to move on to Ms. Terry LeGrand.
Thank you, Lauren, and thank you so much for this panel. Unfortunately, I am going to have to say goodbye after this answer. I have to go back to work. But I do want to say, that I think the single most important thing that we can do is to eliminate gerrymandering. And that is why I have taken a pledge to vote for a nonpartisan independent redistricting commission to draw new district lines in 2021. I think when you eliminate gerrymandering, you restore trust in our democracy, you're more able to hold politicians accountable, and you let the voters choose their representatives and not the other way around. So I think we'll go a long way towards enabling folks to have more trust in their elected representatives when we eliminate gerrymandering. And thank you again so much for doing such an excellent job on this panel. I've really enjoyed it.
Thank you, Ms. Terry LeGrand, and we hope you have a great day. And also, thank you for giving us your presence here on this panel. Moving on to Councilwoman Annette Scipio.
All right. The question was, how can elected officials come to better understand the common person? First of all, you got to understand we're all common. That's a term that's divisive in its nature, but we're all the same. And only our life experiences and our living conditions set us into different categories. So the first thing we must understand is we represent all people, and therefore we must love all people, regardless of their conditions, regardless of their life experiences. And if we start trying to love each other and to work together, then we are all together. So that's not the common, the uncommon, the disadvantaged, the bright. You know, we have so many labels we have come to describe our neighbors. And because of those labels, we don't do what's necessary to build positive relationships and create a fabulous future for all of us. Now we have generational issues. The young people, and I was young, and I remember when I thought I knew everything at 18 and 21, that my elders didn't know anything. Well, goodness, when I finally learned to listen to them and know that they had walked a road that I'm walking on, then those labels went away. Because now we build on the knowledge and the love of those who come before us, not trying to change and tear down, but to build on. And when we do that, we don't have terms called common people. That's divisive. It means we're all together as a community. And so I think elected officials need to understand who they're representing. They're there to represent all of the people, whatever it's a ward, a district, or whatever. It's all of the people, regardless of how they may be diverse.
Thank you for your response, Councilwoman Scipio. Moving on to Ms. Manning.
Thank you. I think that it's critically important for elected officials to be present, to meet with the people they represent, to listen, to ask questions, to be open, to treat everyone respectfully, and assume the best no matter what their positions are on different issues. I think it's important to get outside your circle of friends and colleagues and reach out to people who live in different areas, have different experiences than you do. I have spent, before the primary, when we were able to get out all across the district, I spent as much time as I could meeting with people, asking them what concerns they had. And I was amazed at how willing people were to tell me what worried them, to tell me what their positions were. All it took was me being open and asking their opinions and asking them what bothered them. I think we need to have difficult conversations. We need to have open conversations. And people are willing to share what they think in a respectful manner when they're treated with respect.
Thank you, Mrs. Manning, for your response. Moving on to Senator Krovic. Senator Krovic, you're muted.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
thank the Student Government Association and Forsyth for planning this event as well. I'd like to just say that while I'm thinking about it. Serving my district, the residents in my district, my door is always open. I pride myself on having the best constituent service in the Senate, and I believe that we do. I have a wonderful staff, and I think we do the best job. We have served the citizens no matter what the request is, and we get some very strange ones, as Representative Montgomery can tell you. We get some very strange requests at times for people who just don't know who else to call. They've tried everybody, and they reach out to us. And we always try to help them, but my door is always open. I get out, I meet with my constituents whenever they ask, if I possibly can. To me, this is, we don't do it for the money. So, you know, you're never going to make a lot of money in serving in the North Carolina Senate or the North Carolina House. Many people think we make a lot of money, as the members of Congress do. We make $13,900 a year. And for me, it is a full-time job. I devote every day to the citizens in my district. And I consider more than full-time, really. When I worked full-time, I didn't put this much effort into it. So I'm honored to do that, but I pride myself on meeting with my constituents, hearing what everybody has to say, and trying to help them in any way that I can. Thank you.
Thank you for your response, Senator Krovic. Moving on to Mayor Alan Joynes.
Thank you. I think it's fairly simple. You just got to be there among the people every chance you get. I've been mayor for 19 years, and my staff tells me I average about 1,100 meetings or events per year. So I'm there, I'm listening, I'm hearing, and as someone pointed out earlier, you run into people in the grocery store and they want to talk about an issue, and just be open to that. So it's not a difficult thing as long as you've got the right mindset. I grew up dead-end dirt road in Wilkes County, very poor, so I understand where people are coming from. When they call, they've got a problem. That's the most important thing in their life right then. So I ask my staff to treat it that way, and we try to do that. I congratulate the SGA for your work today. I too have to jump off right now. I've got to be at a luncheon meeting on the other side of town in 10 minutes. So thank you for letting me be a part of this.
Thank you for attendance and your unique perspective you provided on the panel, and we hope you have a great day.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to the next question. This is addressed to John Hood and Dr. Smallwood. Why do we have term limits for presidents but not for mayors? Should there be term limits? Proceeding with Mr. Hood, sorry.
All right. I've gone back and forth on term limits over the course of my career. Of course, I'm very young. We have references to people living and experiencing more than they expected. I'm so young, I don't really have a lot of that. But I would say term limits have a lot of value as long as we don't make them too short. So I think that the term limit for president is appropriate because of the awesome power of that office. I think that an 8-year period of time is entirely justified. With legislators, with local officials, I might go something more like 12 years. I think there's a value to experience, but there's also a value to turnover. And because incumbents enjoy so much advantage in political races, I do think you need to have a fixed maximum term to ensure that rotation in office. That's how early democracies were structured. I think that's how our democracy should be structured.
Thank you for your response, Mr. Hood. Moving on to Dr. Smallwood.
Again, I would echo my colleague. We can all look at examples, again, particularly in North Carolina, very popular governors like Governor Jim Hunt, who did a great deal for the state of North Carolina in terms of education, building roads, particularly my part of the state. Again, I grew up poor in eastern North Carolina, so I can relate to what the mayor just said. So again, we can see where, a person who has experience with government, again, has people perceive to have integrity, who really cares about, his constituents, and those constituents, regardless of their political party. He cares about the people that he or she represents. So we could see why you would have that person perhaps have more than one term or two terms. But again, I echo what my colleague has just said. that on the one hand, again, there can be an abuse of power when a person is in office and they don't seem to have to, run for reelection and don't have to respond. We talked about gerrymandering, and if you're in a district where you know you're going to be reelected, then you tend to respond less to the people because you know you're not threatened, your seat's not threatened. So I think a true democracy is a give and a take, and people listening to people and understanding when they take on that role that they're not representing themselves, they're not representing just the people that voted for them or their party, they're representing all of the people. And they're trying to ensure that we all have a bright future. So that's what I would say.
Thank you for your response, Dr. Smallwood. Moving on to the next question. This is addressed to Durham-Montgomery State Representative Senator Krovic and Councilwoman Scipio. Why not allow 16-year-olds to vote? Is there a major difference between a 16-year-old and an 18-year-old? I would like for State Representative Montgomery to start first.
Well, I'm the youngest person on this panel today, and so I will have to be in a place of advocacy for younger voters. And for me, I think that 18-year-olds, that was not always the case in terms of access to the ballot. And so we've seen, I think as time has evolved, we've seen who has access to voting and at what age has evolved at the same time. And I think that that's something worthwhile examining. I think today, and I don't know if it's a reality, I think that young people are more engaged and more educated as time goes on. I have a 4-year-old niece who I believe talks to me like a 7-year-old. And so I think that the fact is that you want to have your electorate to be able to be intelligible, to be able to understand who they're voting for and be able to do their research. And if we get to a place we believe 16-year-olds are at that place to do it, I'd fully support us examining the opportunity to increase those who have access to the ballot. I sometimes believe that the number is arbitrary. And so I don't really necessarily, if someone has to define it, maybe it's a psychologist or a neural doctor who can tell me the difference between brain function between that 16-year-old and that 18-year-old when they're voting, because it could be arbitrary to me in terms of the difference in that space.
Thank you for your response, State Representative Montgomery. Moving on to State Senator Krovic.
Thank you. I don't know why it's the age is 18, but apparently at some point, somewhere, somebody decided that you were an adult at 18. And so that's kind of just become the standard. I have met many 18-year-olds that were more mature than some 30-year-olds that I know. And I have also met many 18-year-olds that were not as mature as some 14-year-olds that I know. So it is arbitrary, as Representative Montgomery said. I think you do need a certain level of maturity, and that's the reason we do have age restrictions on so many things, driving, for example. So I'm with Representative Montgomery. I certainly would look at the situation, but I do think we need maturity, and I think you need to have a certain level of experience. And so I'm not sure that you could obtain that before 18. I just don't know. But I don't know why that age is where we've decided that's the appropriate time. Thank you.
Great. Thank you for your response, Senator Krovic. Moving on to Councilwoman Scipio. Councilwoman, you're muted.
Okay. Well, I came up in the age when the voting age was 21. And you had to be 21 because that's when a lot of legal responsibilities occurred. So to become 21, the first thing we oftentimes did was register to vote, because that was something we could do, and that was significant. The age of 18 came in after so many young people, men and women, were drafted to go to Vietnam. So at the age of 18, you can go into military service, which you're giving your life for this country. So that is significant time when we think that you're mature enough to give your life and to serve. So that is happening. I'm not certain at 16 what needs to be that criteria. I think there's a level of maturity. I think there's also a sense of responsibility. that must be within people, that they understand what this privilege is to vote. So for it to shift to 16, I do believe we have to have mass indoctrination of responsibility of what does this actually mean. We can't just have a few, because one of the things I like to see is in this election that we have 18-year-olds in great numbers voting. And so when that age group, that demographic demonstrates that they are responsible enough to vote, then I think that's when we can say, oh, wow, let's see what the 16-year-olds are thinking. So I think it's all about maturity, responsibility, and then what do we expect of someone at that age? If you're 16, then at 16 now the courts allow you to be emancipated, to be totally responsible for yourself. So there may be some thinking towards that, but I think it needs to be investigated.
Thank you for your response, Councilwoman Scipio. We'll be moving to the next part of our panel that will be introduced by Dr. Arwen Smallwood. I will preface this part of the panel by asking him this question. Which populations are most at risk for not having access to the vote?
Thank you for the question. Traditionally, I would say that certainly the poor, certainly the elderly, certainly, we know the immigrant population. So certainly there are, populations that are at risk. And if we go back and explain why we say the elderly, because they may not be as mobile, they may have difficulty reading or being able to, to understand the ballot. As you age, you need additional assistance. So we can see that would particularly be a vulnerable population. And so when we talk about an immigrant population, for example, they would not necessarily understand the voting process depending upon where they immigrated from. They may not have immigrated from a country that was democratic. They may not fully understand, that we do have free elections and that they are allowed to choose for themselves. So those are some of the things that I would, immediately think of and say in terms of these vulnerable populations. Those would be the people that I would point to and I would look at. And certainly minorities in many cases, whether African American or Hispanic, but many minority populations as well.
Thank you for your response, Dr. Smallwood. We would like for you to proceed with your essay on why the minority vote matters and the consequences of politics upon everyday citizens from a social point of view.
Okay, very good. Well, certainly as a person who studies history and who studies African American history, we know that minorities, particularly African Americans, as we start with that population, did not have the right to vote. They were an enslaved population. There were some free blacks that in very limited situations did have the right prior to the majority of African Americans. But well over 95% of African Americans who were enslaved didn't get the right to vote until after the American Civil War. Basically when they were made citizens during the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments, made citizens, basically given slavery being abolished, them made citizens, and then given the right to vote. And we know that once they were given the right to vote, particularly in the American South, they had a tremendous impact on the development of the American South. I stated in the earlier part of the program that, not just African Americans who were enslaved and could not get an education, but poor whites throughout the American South also could not get an education. You had to have resources and wealth to be able to attend the University of North Carolina, Wake Forest, or the other institutions. If we talk about private institutions or state, but really private institutions like the University of Mississippi or the Universities of South Carolina. And once African Americans got the right to vote and were able to elect people to the legislature and they themselves run and serve in the legislature, one of the things that they demanded in North Carolina and throughout the South was free public education. There was not a thing such as free public education. We take it for granted today and we ignore it today. But that was established during that era following emancipation and following the Civil War, and by many minority African American representatives who not only served but voted to basically ensure that their children and grandchildren would have an opportunity for a quality education. And they extended that not just to their families and their population, but they extended it to the entire state of North Carolina, as I've alluded to. There were poor whites in Appalachia, poor whites in eastern North Carolina and southeastern North Carolina, all over the state of North Carolina, Randolph County, who could not get an education. And as we know, with a quality education, there are opportunities for people of all races, all backgrounds to elevate themselves. So minority populations, once they have acquired the understanding of how to vote, why to vote, for whom to vote for, it has really benefited them directly, historically, not to mention then when they were disenfranchised during the Jim Crow era and African Americans could not vote in the South. And once they were able to vote after we end Jim Crow and we have voting rights legislation to allow them to vote, how they have helped to transform the South. So specifically in the American South, when we talk about minorities and particularly African Americans, we can see a real impact of voting on those populations. I always say this, not to be too long-winded about it, but if we look at the history, I've been all over, as I said before, and I've been to Tennessee and through Mississippi, and we have an outstanding educational system here in North Carolina, and we have outstanding historically Black colleges as well as the other UNC campuses, not to mention the many private schools that we have. And that would not have been possible without the vote. It would not have been possible if African Americans had not been given the right to vote and the opportunity to serve the legislature to basically ensure that their children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren, and people like myself would be able to do things that we're doing.
Thank you for your response, Dr. Smallwood. We would like to thank all the panelists for your participation and for providing your unique perspective to the audience. And we'll be proceeding with our closing statements and wrapping up and sentiments. I dare say that this event has truly been momentous for everyone in attendance. I did not know what to anticipate for today's event, but I do hope that our audience has taken valuable knowledge out of the discussions we've witnessed. But today we've experienced a conversation between our panel of politicians to our viewers coming in from all over the state. I would like to extend my gratitude to our panel for taking time out of their very busy schedules to participate in this roundtable discussion. Their expertise, experiences, and unique perspective brings a relevant voice into the conversation that many young people like me are involved in. Now more than ever, we need to know what politicians are doing for the people that they serve, and I commend anyone for speaking up for what they truly believe in. Many thanks to Forsyth Tech, the administration, staff, board of trustees, and our president, Dr. Janet Spriggs, and the entire SGA team for helping us make this event a reality. I would like to give the floor to my fellow moderator, Paulina Solis-Page.
Thank all of you for making the time to be here today. It's been an honor to address such accomplished individuals and to be able to hear your perspectives. As an international student, I learned quite a lot today, and I hope others did as well. Thank you.
Thank you, obviously, for taking the time and extending your knowledge, your goodwill on this panel. And before we move to the closing statement and Dr. Spriggs' closing remarks, I'd like to give the panelists an opportunity to make their closing statements. And we'll start with Representative Darrell Montgomery.
So first and foremost, I want to say thank you to all of you all. To Dr. Spriggs, you have an amazing group of young people that you are leading at Forsyth Tech. I'm proud to be a state representative representing Forsyth County because I can share about all the great things that you all are doing here in Forsyth County and the people who are coming through and matriculating through Forsyth Tech. So thank you for that. And thank you all for your participation and interest in understanding and celebrating in this on Constitution Day and what our civic responsibilities are as we engage and as we respect the Constitution. That is that founding document. That is a living document that continues to help guide us as we shepherd our way through this thing called life living in the United States. And so with that, I appreciate each and every one of you, and I look forward to working in community to continue to make our communities better. And I think that we're going to have some folks from Forsyth Tech who are going to be very, very influential in helping to move our community forward.
Thank you, sir. Professor Arlen Smallwood.
Again, I want to echo my colleague, and I want to say I've had an opportunity to work with lots of students all over this country, PhD candidates, master's students, You all have done an outstanding job. Dr. Spriggs, you should be very proud of your student body and your leadership. They are outstanding. And I think this was an excellent program and an excellent opportunity to have just a real conversation about politics and about the future of our country and of our state. So I'm just very honored to have had the opportunity to be amongst such distinguished people and be able to, just hopefully give a little bit of insight into our political situation. So thank you again. Thank you all.
Mr. Hayward.
I just want to thank everybody for the opportunity. Dr. Spriggs, thank you. You've done a good job with these young leaders, future leaders, and I want to thank you for the opportunity to be a part of this discussion today and to celebrate the Constitution. This document sets us apart from the rest of the world, and we need to cherish it and wrap our arms around it. And thankfully, y'all have realized that, I believe, and are keeping this document on a pedestal as it should be. We need to revere it. And I also want to say to the young leaders out there today, things come and go in this country. It looks bleak at times, and the partisanship, gets out of hand at times. But we live in the greatest country God has given this universe, and we need to relish it and cherish it, wrap our arms around it. Make the most out of the opportunity that God has given you to be in this country. There is so much opportunity out there for you, and I wish you all the best. Sometimes it's best if you just turn off the news sometimes and look around and smell the air, look at the roses, and just realize how lucky we are to be alive and to cherish one another and to treat each other with respect that as the same respect that you want to be treated with. I wish you all the best, and thank you for your time today, and thank you for all you're doing.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Next, yes.
I think we had trouble hearing you, Curtis, but I believe you asked Miss Scipio.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Sorry, I couldn't hear him either. Sorry.
Okay. Well done, Forsyth Tech's SGA. Well done indeed. I am so pleased to have experienced your leadership, your thoughtfulness, your professionalism. Wow. That's all I can say is wow. I believe and I feel as if I remember when I was a student in college, and you make me feel that way again, because excellence, seeking quality was the standard that was instilled in me, and you are just bright stars. I am so pleased to have experienced this, because I have confidence that you stay in Forsyth County, we're going to have a wonderful city and council and county in the future, because you are prime examples of a wonderful future for our city. So thank you, thank you, thank you. And if I can do anything, Dr. Spriggs, to assist your students in my little world, I'll be so happy to do that, because they're good. I like them. They're very much like me when I was younger. And I like that.
Be careful to check the cash, right? Okay. Miss Manning, are you still with us? Not. Mr. John Hood.
Well, I too appreciate the opportunity to participate. Glad the internet came back on before the end so I could rejoin in person. I just want to leave you with a thought that I'm not sure we've really emphasized enough today. We talked a lot about voting, the right to vote. That is a necessary component of self-government, but it's not a sufficient one. Think about it this way. We only have elections every 2 years or 4 years. It's actually a fairly occasional part of our life. Democracy thrives when we exercise other rights as well. We are beneficiaries of the right of free speech and free press, and we should be consuming and following, and again, as I've said several times, educating ourselves about the issues and the challenges and the opportunities in our country. We should be volunteering our time, building institutions, being involved in our communities in various ways, including in political campaigns and parties, in public policy groups, in nonprofits that are engaged in policy formation, all important parts of what democracy is. And frankly, we should be talking like this. We should be having more conversations. That's part of the democratic process. It leads up to and follows the vote, which, as I said, is essential, but only occasional. But every day we can volunteer, we can study, we can educate, we can speak, and we can listen.
Thank you, sir. And finally, Senator Joyce Crowley, still with us.
I think she had to leave, Curtis. Sorry.
So. All right, so I will end up the closing statement. Today has been a historic day for many of us. First, I would like to thank the panelists for extending their time, knowledge, and goodwill to make this event a reality. Kudos to Forsyth Tech, the administration, staff, board of trustees, our president, Dr. Janet Spriggs, and the entire SGA team. May I emphasize the word team? I would say you guys rock, noting them. I do not know if this has ever been attempted in this fashion, but it is an honor for all the students who are participating in person and via media to experience this. They say there are two things you do not talk about: politics and religions. The political process affects us all. I would dare to believe that all of us likewise have some form of religion, whether that be a belief in a higher power or the belief in oneself. Beliefs matter because they affect us. I think that today is a great illustration of why the political process is so important. It is a discussion or illumination of what we believe and hold dear that challenges our notions of independence and causes us to act. Voting is an act. Voting is a choice. Voting is the direct response and effect caused by what you believe. Our distinguished panelists have staked their beliefs in open view for all to see, and I cannot imagine that everyone has the courage to do so. It is not easy standing on the corner and using the loudest horn to get someone to hear an idea or to warn or to inform. Life, we know, is filled with the everyday and mundane. We are interesting people as a whole. Yesterday, I made mention of the one comment, Dr. Janet Spriggs, in conversation: if you are the smartest person in the room, you need to leave. And I think we both laughed because she taught me that. This process is relevant to discuss because no one is the smartest person in the room. Each of us brings a uniqueness to this thing we call life that only you can bring. Communication or the expression of ideas has long been the main source for the advancement of civilization. If Ms. Ping Ling were here today, she would say, people need to talk more and listen more. In our cultural climate today, we are faced with apparent issues from social justice and reform to housing and welfare to poverty and disasters. And though that may not seem related to the political process, it very much is. If your economically disadvantaged school system seems to lack resources, get involved in the political process so that you can process things to areas of need. If the issue of how to pay for your child's future education is yours, get involved in the political process. Know your local officials and funds or resources available. If you think your neighborhood is overrun with crime and poverty, or that police brutality is real, get involved. There are many issues spoken about here. All of those issues involve you. You are part of this political process. You hear about it, you read about it, you discuss it. So think of it as communication. Representative John Lewis said, let us get into some good trouble. We should hold people accountable to what they say before us as the protector, by extension, of the things that we hold dear. Elected officials are those people. They need our support, but we need theirs too. And if ever there was a time to discuss things, now is the time. Our nation is built upon a very simple principle. All men are created equal in the sight of God, and all men should be left free to pursue happiness. Laws should not disenfranchise the very people they were meant to help. The people are the nation and not the other way around. This political process is about us. It is about the single mom working, trying to earn a degree and change her standard of living and quality of life. It is about the family trying to figure out how to pay ever-increasing medical bills to care for their aged family. It's about the youth walking down the street with every intention of a dream of the way out of the ghetto and no intention of doing anything criminal, but made to fit a societal view that is not his own nor his reality. It is about the manufacturer and the worker, the immigrant, the waitress, the nurse, the fireman, the police officer, the educator, and even the prisoner. But most importantly, the political process is about all those who dare to dream, who dare to believe that they can change their stars. It is these dreams that politicians hold in their hands and can alter a person's life with the stroke of a pen or a nod or a nay. So today, if I may I ask that we look at this phrase, the political process, from a new vantage point. And that vantage point is the one standing or seated right next to you. President Kennedy once said that he believed that a black man could very well be the president in the next 40 years. He was close in his belief. I like the other thing he is known for saying: ask not what your country can do for you, but rather what you can do for your country. Get involved, be involved. God bless Forsyth Technical Community College, and may God bless you all. And with that, I would like to turn it over to Dr. Janet Spriggs for her closing remarks.
Well, Curtis, you know, you just made it very hard to follow that, I want to say. Let me congratulate, first of all, I do want to thank our panelists, because this day would not have been possible without your gracious amount of time that you agreed to spend and your forthright and thoughtful answers to all the questions. So thank you so much on behalf of all of us at Forsyth Tech for being a part of this learning experience for all of us and for our students. Curtis Walker is our SGA president. I think that it is evident to all of you today why he was elected by his peers and his fellow students to be our student government president. I felt like you were running for a much larger office today, Curtis, and I am so profoundly proud of you and just excited to have had the opportunity to work with you on this project. But let me say to all of you that Curtis and Paulina Solis-Page and Lauren Yui, our other moderators, and a host of other students actually put this entire program together. They had wonderful support from our student life and engagement advisors and their team, but they put this together. And I, for one, think you have represented Forsyth Technical Community College in a most exemplary way, just outstanding. Thank you very much for all that you have done in this regard. All of you, I think, have seen a small glimpse into the caliber of the students and to the learning that is taking place at your community college. Community colleges are designed in North Carolina to meet every citizen where they are and take them as far as they can go. At Forsyth Tech, we live by our shared vision every day, which is that we will be a catalyst for equitable economic mobility, empowering lives, and transforming communities. That is who we are, and that is what we do every day. And I hope that you will now join me on my mission, my personal mission, and our college's mission to end the community college stigma. Sometimes there is a stigma out there that our students are at community colleges as a last resort. And I think that my students have demonstrated to you today that Forsyth Technical Community College for many is a first choice. And not only that, but an amazing first choice and the right first choice for them. I want to thank you again for your time and your support and for being a part of Forsyth Tech. And Councilwoman Scipio, over 80% of our graduates stay right here in Forsyth and Stokes counties. So they are going to be our future leaders. And I want you to rest assured that we will do our best to make sure that, just as you've seen from these three amazing leaders today, all of our students leave Forsyth Tech empowered to be important members of our community and, Mr. Hood, engaged members of our community. I think that Curtis reiterated what you had said, that it's not just about the vote, it's about all the work that goes on before and after the vote as well. So thank you very much. I appreciate you all. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Well, I guess that brings us to the conclusion of today's first annual virtual discussion panel. I would like to thank the viewers. I would like, obviously, to thank our Forsyth Tech staff, our administration. Again, my peers who are here in the audience, Ms. Annalena Tavares, Jeff King, Jeremy Brown, Keenan Lofton-Bell, who else? And also make a special note to mention Ms. Beverly Lewis, our advisor, and Ms. Kismet Lofton-Bell, and so many other people. So on behalf of Forsyth Technical Community College and its Student Government Association, the students, faculty, administration, board of trustees, and our president, Dr. Janet Spriggs, we extend our sincere appreciation to our panelists for making this event reality. And for all those viewing, we would like to say have a great day. We hope that you enjoyed the discussion, and hopefully we look to see you next year.
Thank you. Take care.
Thank you.